welcome everyone to XLNC Shoutcasting. I'm Jake Kelton, your host. Joining me tonight and this morning, is Spoods as the color caster. We are getting into Recon 5 Blue, taking on XLNC. As you just saw, we got pro drafted, but as I was explaining to Mr. Spoods, one of the reasons why we don't actually cast through the pro draft, if you were curious, is because of those errors. Pro draft is a fantastic program, but it's not perfect, and sometimes it does have those errors. For those of you that were watching, it was actually the Lissandra rather than Volibear, as well as the last ban for the side of XLNC was Corky. So that's one of the reasons why we kind of use it as a reference, but don't necessarily cast through that, because you can be making all of these casting predictions and then it turn out wrong because it's actually some other champion that they had selected in the first place.
Right, fair enough, but you know, it still takes away like the you know, what's what I'm looking for here, like the surprise when you see a pick come in, or the anticipation of seeing those picks. But you know, like I believe we saw Nautilus. I was gonna think like maybe they were gonna flex it to the mid lane, but I don't believe they're gonna do so.
No, I'm pretty sure not. If you were looking at the pro draft that's down below, you can actually see that Nautilus most likely is playing that supportive role with the Kalista. However, he has been a couple of times flexed to the mid lane as an AP Nautilus, but even in the bottom lane supportive role, today there were some games in which Nautilus, I think there's one game in particular, that Nautilus was played bottom lane support, but AP heavy. So I doubt that that's going to be this case, considering they have so much damage on the side of Recon 5 Blue with the Akali, the Rek'sai, and the Kalista. They don't need another damage-heavy champion. However, it doesn't hurt to stack a little bit of extra damage, and if they think that the Urgot's going to be tank enough for the team, they could run that Nautilus a bit more AP bruiser.
I'll come back stronger.
Yeah, and like so far from both sides, seeing a pretty you know, like it's kind of balanced. In what am I even saying? As in, I would like. Okay, my brain isn't working. I would like to see just a little bit more tankiness from the XLNC side, but I think both teams right now have the tools that they require to succeed. But they need to draft like a sort of more team fight oriented AD carry bot lane, which we are seeing come through here. Because I think both of these compositions will be aiming for the team fight later on in the game.
Exactly. When you're looking at the side of XLNC, you were mentioning they don't have quite as big of a tank as you'd like to see. They do have the Galio that can get fairly tanky, but he's in a supportive role, so it's going to be gold limited, and it's hard to buy those bigger tanky items when you're consistently starved for gold in the bottom lane. And then you have Vladimir, who can be somewhat of an off tank considering the amount that he can heal, however, not that necessarily base stats tank like a Nautilus and potentially a late game Urgot if he builds that more tanky route. The one thing I see from XLNC, though, is massive engage. The Hecarim, the Lissandra, even Sivir Ultimate speeds everyone forward. You have the Galio as well. We saw it in yesterday's games, if you were a part of them, for the Immortal Gaming Series. The Hecarim-Galio combo was absolutely nuts in the late game 5v5 because Hecarim would ult into the middle of all 5 of the enemy team, followed up by the Galio ultimate, making sure to kind of have a wombo combo. You add to it Lissandra's ultimate and Sivir's crits coming through everything. The late game out of XLNC is pretty insane, so I'm looking forward to seeing how they do, but they have to get there, whereas they're against a Rek'sai who's shown proficiency in the early game, being able to pick up some early kills, and then Nautilus and Akali, combine those two together, heavy CC and massive assassination. You can find some really good picks as long as you have good vision.
Yeah, and for the side of R5 here, you're really gonna look to more of the win lane, win game strategy, because you don't really have you have the Rek'sai, and you don't really have the the late game engage outside of the Kalista ult into Nautilus into the enemy team. So I think that on the side of R5, you want to snowball your lanes, whilst on the side of XLNC, you are okay with just sitting back, arming out, and then winning the game that way. As always, if you have the Sivir, you have that 500 CS win condition later on during the team fights. So that's certainly one dynamic we have to keep our eye out for.
Exactly. Exactly. Now let's go ahead and roll through the players and their champions before we get into this game and break it down a little bit further. To the side of Recon 5 Blue, we've got Joy of Victory taking the Urgot into the top lane. Hyunji with the Akali in the mid lane. McNuggets, I'm just going to call them McNuggets, with the Rek'sai in the jungle. Gamoth with the Kalista, bottom lane AD carry role, and R5 Patient taking the Nautilus in this supportive role. If you would do the honor of running through Team Excellency, that would be awesome.
Right, and for Team XLNC, we have Jin taking the Vladimir, Mike Oxmall Bros taking Hecarim, Demonius the God on Lysandra, Hurricanes on Sivir, and Applause on Galio.
There we go. So when you're talking about the team compositions and kind of what they want to do, you're looking at the late game from Excellency, the win lane, win game. You want to have that early pressure from Recon 5 Blue, which means, as it so often does, it comes down to the story of the junglers, where they focus their attention. Rek'sai, we talked about a little bit, great early game champion. You flash in, you get some knock up with the Unburrow, and you set your team up for success. But when you're looking at the side of Excellency, on that bottom lane, which is normally one of Rek'Sai's favorite targets, you have a spell shielding Sivir and a taunt on the Galio. Both can ruin Rek'Sai's stay. So where is it that this Rek'Sai is going to be looking at going to kind of set up some of that pressure to help those lanes actually become victorious?
Well, if I was the Rek'Sai, like you said, the bot lane isn't really something that is particularly the most viable for him to be ganking. So if I was the Rek'Sai, I would want to focus up on the top side of the map, as in top and mid lane, so that you can put down the Vladimir, put pressure on that top lane, and hopefully get the Urgot and the Akali ahead, which should just be enough to have a winning top side of the map. And like I said, you win lane and win game from that way.
Absolutely, and I definitely like to see that Urgot start the game off really, really strong, because he's one of those things that in those early game skirmishes, he can definitely take over. The other thing I hope to see out of this Rek'Sai is heavy pressure around the Rift Herald when it shows up, because a Rift Herald combined with Urgot's Gatling gun damage on one single turret, that turret is going to fall like a snap. And maybe Thanos snapped that turret away. They could get easily first turret of the game, maybe even two turrets with that pressure. We've seen it many times before. So I want to see those neutral objectives controlled by Rek'Sai. Flipping the script on the other side, that Hecarim, obviously it's great to hit level 6, but he still has good pressure in the early game. Is he wanting to get his own lane snowballing, or is he looking to kind of counter the Rek'Sai potentially?
Yeah, and if I was the Hecarim, actually if I were both junglers, I would be trying to play as aggressively as I can. Perhaps take into that vertical jungling sort of thing. And, you know, in order to have more priority on the side of the map that I want to gank, which is top side for the Rek'Sai. And if the Hecarim wants to mitigate that, he can also go to that top side. Like you said, he's not entirely useless until he hits 6 either. But if he wants, he can also just take it easy and go down the bot lane and try to snowball that Sivir lane, which it will also be very, very important when it comes to those late game team fights.
Absolutely. It's a Mountain Drake to start the game off, so keep your eyes on that if teams want to secure that to then have that extra bit of damage when they're looking for those turret platings. It's pretty nice to have that Mountain Drake in the early game before those plates fall off those turrets. However, you really want to have, say, that Sivir be able to pick up that Mountain Drake in the early game for those crits, because a Kalista grabbing that Mountain Drake on neutral objectives, they can clear that so incredibly quickly with the Rend. So it might be something for Excellency to prioritize their attention around that Mountain Drake just to keep it out of the hands of Recon 5 Blue.
And earlier you were talking about being excited for Jin's Vladimir coming up again. If you would like to elaborate on that, I would love to hear what you have to say.
Game number 1 in yesterday's Immortal Gaming series, he did very, very well, had lots of pressure, and as the game scaled into the later side of things, he just was kind of a force to be reckoned with, constantly in the face of the enemy team, happy to run behind to those back lines and try to find a massive 5-man Hemo Plague, all that sort of good stuff out of Vladimir. Game 2, he definitely struggled. He was counterpicked himself into a Kled, and I think went 1 and 3 in lane. Definitely had a lot more of a struggle, was down CS pretty consistently. However, as the game progressed, he still found himself doing fairly well and becoming that target for the enemy team to burn so many spells on before he went into the pool and just escaped and kept himself alive. So he's really good at basically burning spells when he's down on the enemy team, and when he's ahead, he will be killing your squishier members. So either way, something to watch. As a little bit of a root comes into the mid lane onto the Akali. Ionji getting a bit of trade with that electrocute. I think still about even at the moment.
Right, and so the question here is, if the Rek'Sai were to theoretically camp the top lane, is that going to be enough to keep the Vladimir down, in your opinion?
I think that it's going to be enough to slow him. And that's one of those things with Vladimir is he's just going to scale to late game. It's kind of like Sivir. As long as the game hits 35 plus minutes, he's going to be a monster, and there's not really much that you can do. But you can slow that. You can delay it being a 20-minute Vladimir that's destroying your face rather than a 35-minute Vladimir. And so I think that Rek'Sai still focusing on this mid to top side is the right place to target, because if you can get Akali snowballing, she'll take over a game. And if you can just keep Vladimir, delay his monstrosity for another 5, 10, 15 minutes, that will set your team up better when it comes to, again, their focus of winning lane, coming out of lane with a good 3,000, 4,000 CS lead, or gold lead, and then lead the charge for the team.
Good point, and if you saw the pings come down on the minimap here, they know where the Rek'Sai is, and the Vladimir is pushed under his turret, so I don't think we're going to be seeing a gank up there very soon, even though they may be looking to invade the enemy jungle, but unfortunately the red buff and Raptors are not there anymore. He goes for the Crux though, so there's that.
Alright, I also forgot, very quickly, we'll leave it up for about 2 minutes. You guys can now bet on the channel whether you think red side or blue side is going to come out victorious. So you can place those bets with the XP that you've earned from passively watching the stream. As it looks like what we talked about, Hacker and potentially coming into this bottom lane. If they can find a nice two-man taunt with applause, that's probably a guaranteed kill on the Kalista, or at least a burn flash. Here it is, the engaged flash for double man taunt. The Hacker comes in, the kill onto Kalista. They can turn onto Patient. Not only is pretty tanky, he's going to have two-man slow. They have to back away. Ooh, good hook, but not in the tower range. So Mycox walks away fairly unscathed from that, but first blood to the side of XLNC.
And that was a very good two-man stun. I'm not sure, I mean the two-man taunt, I'm not very sure if they would have been able to get that kill if the Galio did not flash and land that, because, is there action? No, there's no action. Because the bot lane on the side of R5 here, they were doing a very good job in staying back in case of a gank because they didn't have vision in that bush. But that taunt just came in and ruined all of that and gave XLNC that early game advantage that you do not want to give them.
This actually happened very similar in yesterday's games, in which the first game, Applause was so effective with those flash taunts that they banned the Galio in game 2, but Applause still had a good game on a different champion. I believe actually played Nautilus game number 2 of yesterday's games. So we'll see if that Galio ban comes through in game number 2 today, as already Applause starting off pretty strong. Jhin in the top lane, getting a bit of his health knocked off. However, it's Vladimir. He's going to heal it back up with a couple of Qs.
Yep, and if we look at the junglers, they have sort of swapped positions. So we might potentially see a gank on the top lane, on the bot lane for the Rek'Sai if XLNC decide to push out even further.
Especially right now when Hurricanes is sitting so low mana. This Sivir has not backed yet, and if the Rek'Sai gets in, especially with so little mana on the Sivir, they might be able to get that knockup they're looking for if they can keep that spell shield from being effective.
Yeah, but when he does back, he's gonna get such a big advantage. He has like what?
Hold on to the top lane. The Vladimir gonna pool to get out of the ultimate of the Urgot. Are you kidding me? Hecarim coming in, pushing the Urgot back, delaying that. So Jhin makes it out alive. What a great play on that top side. However, with that recall, he's gonna just have to match TP as Urgot did back and TP to that top lane to almost pick up a kill of his own.
There's a TP coming in. But yeah, like I was saying, the Sivir is sitting on like a 400 gold item advantage. It's not showing in the gold lead per se, but he does have those items, and he is going to be able to poke out the Kalista a little bit more effectively. And A bit of action in mid lane.
Ultimate going in. Yeah, it's pretty easy lockdown. That's the level 7 Lissandra. Just drops that ulti Glacial Tomb. Hecarim comes in for that extra bit of damage. Now they can get a couple of plates off this mid lane turret. Nautilus is going to come and see if he can defend. Patient not interested in trying to fight. There is a Rek'sai joining him, though, so there might be a little bit of action here in a moment.
Yeah, and this Hecarim has been all over the map. He's been so
Hold on,
helpful.
Rek'sai ulting and look for Timonius, but a great claw gets Lysandra out of harm's way. They're going to turn on to Mike Ox. There's no ulti from the Rek'sai, though it's already been burned, so the Hecarim could just pop the ghost and flee to the top side of the map. The chase called off by the Nautilus and Rek'sai. If that initial hook from the Nautilus had landed, that story might look completely different, but with the miss, everyone on the side of XLNC escapes.
Yeah, and that was like a very good trade on the side of XLNC because they do get that kill, and you're putting your mid excuse me, and you're putting your mid laner and your jungler further ahead. But we do see some action in the top lane now.
Getting the knockup. Vladimir taking a little bit of damage. The TP coming in from the Lysandra as well. She's got the root. The Rek'Sai goes down. Vladimir picking up his first kill of the game. They're considering chasing under the turret. They won't. The Callista uses that ult to pull Nautilus in. Gonna give a little bit of knockup. Applause gonna try to get those taunts down to save the Sivir. Won't be able to do so in time. And look at the Callista. Spears for days. The Rend comes through. And that is only 2 assists for Callista as Akali stole 1. Nautilus steals the other. But it's still 2 kills for Recon 5 that they desperately needed.
Yeah, and on the side of Recon 5, that is the member that you're going to be wanting to give the gold to at the moment. Because Akali is the one in the mid lane. If she gets priority over that lane, she can go top lane and she can go bot lane very quickly and hope to snowball her lead. But as for that little bit of fiesta we just saw, it was because of the trade in the mid lane, allowing for Lysandra to go up to the top lane right afterwards for that gank. And to bring back the point I was on earlier, the Hecarim has been doing a lot of work, which has allowed for their laners to be able to snowball this and to go into other lanes to hopefully increase that lead. But still, we do see Recon 5 here pulling back slightly with 2 kills on the board now.
Yeah, and that's what they need. They need to at least have some lanes that are starting to get a little bit in position. Ooh, Taunt comes through onto the Rek'Sai in the bottom lane. However, gonna throw out that ultimate very early on. The Galio ultimate to cause the disengagement. Rek'Sai heads out, so does Akali. They get out with their lives, XLNC does in the bottom lane. And honestly, I would say that's actually a little bit won by Recon 5. They only burned Rek'Sai's ultimate for Galio's ult, and when you can take that tool off of XLNC's table, that's pretty nice. Root comes through onto the Akali, but Lysandra's going to take the claw away as Nautilus just comes speeding towards that top side. Here's the engage, though, with the Sivir ultimate. Hecarim charging in, trying to get the fear. They should be able to knock Patient down. The Nautilus, he's tanky, but he's not tanky enough. However, Hecarim going to quickly follow as the Akali going to flash in to make sure that he goes down. Takes the second side of the ultimate, finish him off. However, Sivir with the last crit takes out Akali. So it's still a 2-for-1 in favor of XLNC that can move in, taking more plates off this mid lane turret. And this team, both sides really, but XLNC heavily, loves to collapse and fight this game. So you know what? We're not going to wait till the laning phase is over to fight. We're just going to start it early.
Oh yeah, the team fight phase is now. And it looked really good for Recon 5 earlier because they were able to burn the Galio ultimate and look like a cohesive unit as they tried to converge on the bot lane, but unfortunately XLNC was able to capitalize as they returned to the mid lane by just charging up there with all the manpower that they could get, and they are rewarded with the first turret gold along with the full plating value of it.
Beautiful stuff. That's going to give them about a 2,500 gold lead at this point. And you can see in the top lane, though, Jhin has kind of just held Urgot at bay. He's still coming out with a 15 CS lead over this Urgot, which is going to be pretty nice. Again, still going to keep scaling. Demonius playing with fire as the Raptors are chasing the Sonder back to the second tier turret. Pings from XLNC onto the Mountain Drake. However, with those recalls, they're probably going to want to buy with those the gold that they just got from that mid lane turret before heading towards the Mountain Drake.
Rek'Sai is on the Rift Herald.
Oh, there's that Rift Herald we talked about in the early game. At the moment, Rek'Sai trying to solo it down. Doesn't have any vision from XLNC to try to fight over. There's a control ward, but I don't think it has vision inside the pit itself, so Urgot going to join. Means they should be able to get that Rift Herald, and now we can see where they decide to take that and use it.
Yep. And like you said, I think it's best if you try to put it in the top lane, unless you want to open up the mid lane a little bit so that the Akali can roam. But all things considered, I think yes, the best option for the Rek'Sai to put down this Rift Herald is the top lane to try to get the Urgot back on even footing with the Vladimir.
When you get in that top lane, it would be good to get the turret. However, Vladimir, you're going to have to push him out of lane because otherwise he'll just pool and sustain. He's got that ultimate still available as well. And when you're trying to drop in the mid lane to even up those turrets, you're not really getting advantages. You're kind of evening up the game at this point. And from the side of Recon 5 Blue, they need to find somewhere they can do that so then they can try to get back into the game and find themselves advantages rather than just catching back up. Mountain Drake started by XLNC. Nautilus here, putting up some vision, so they know this is happening. Bottom side of Recon 5 seems to be collecting around the Drake. Might fight forward, but Akali's not there at this moment.
Yeah, I don't think you want to take this fight since it's going to be a 4v3.
Going to try to engage. The Galio ultimate use gets the knockup onto the Nautilus. Mike Oxbro, though, might have pushed himself a little bit too far forward. The Kalista lives for now. Galio's trying to do what he can. In the meantime, Vladimir solos the Urgot on the top side of the map. Rek'Sai is getting the chase forward, though. They finish off the Galio and the Lysandra. They can get the Sivir on top of it, and IOG will escape with almost no help. They've been found a hugely successful fight. Recon 5 around the Drake despite losing that Urgot on the top side.
And yeah, this Akali is really doing work. Even though we saw the Galio, we saw Applause being able to take away 2 members from the fight, but that only served to leave his carries out to dry.
Left out to dry, this Kalista gonna secure the turret in the bottom side, knows that it's futile to do much more, and still falls. Give it a 3rd kill over to the Vladimir, which isn't exactly what you want to do to a late game scaling champion. As Hecarim going to try to find a revenge kill in the mid lane versus Hyoji. However, Kali's damage is pretty good, but Hecarim's damage might be more. You don't even have to see in the shroud. Just swing the blade around and pick up a 3rd kill.
Yeah, and the main thing we have to worry about here is now that the Vladimir is this ahead, how are you going to be able to stop him? And I think the way you do stop him is not really by focusing him until he does get those crucial damage items. Dragon goes over to Recon 5 here. And I think you just go around him and you try to take down the Sivir as fast as possible, and then you focus the Vladimir. Because then you have 1 damage carry already out of the picture. You can have more time in, you know, whacking down that regenerating health bar that the Vladimir does bring to the fight.
Exactly. Focus the squishier members. Members are going to be a little bit more difficult to drop. Wow, that turret lives with almost no health. 12 health on the top side of the map.
Oof.
1 more minion auto attack would have taken it down, but we'll have to wait to see whether it's a minion or a champion that walks up to finish it off. As Nautilus has joined the Kalista. Galio coming up here as well as Lysandra. Starting to roam up. However, Patient might be the target as Galio's going to go forward, try to find the onto the Nautilus alone. So Kalista focuses onto the Sivir, but Lysandra is here. There's the Glacial Tomb. Sorry, Kalista. You may get the run to finish off Sivir, and you're actually healing up as well. They're turning onto the Galio. The ultimate from the Urgot saves Kalista. Akali's here as well. We'll pick up Demonius, the god, and make it a 3-4-0 fight on the top side for Recon 5. What an incredible collapse.
And that was a huge turn on the side of Recon 5, because on the side of XLNC you don't really have that much damage right now. You still have to scale, while Recon 5 is hitting those crucial damage spikes. And so they are able to take the fight off of XLNC, and if they keep doing this, they may be able to snowball it.
We'll see if the Akali can escape from these 2 in the mid lane. Vladimir going to pool just to get a little bit extra damage. A nice flash over the wall, so Akali will survive, but that is just delaying time because the Vladimir and Hecarim have been focusing them instead of the turn on the top side. Lysandra TPing to the backside of these 4 members. Going to see if they can pick up something as a revenge from the last fight not going so well. They've got the Nautilus. However, Applause, seeing what she can do, is going to be falling. Sivir still be able to pick up Kalista, though, so that makes it, at the moment, a 2-for-1 trade. Going to be turning onto the Urgot next, joys of victory. This Crab stuck in a little bit of a bad spot, gets rooted up. Vladimir and Hecarim just charging, knocking, throwing him everywhere. He's still trying to crawl his way back to maybe get a little bit more, but falls, making the game total of 12-for-11, but pretty much tied up in gold.
Very intense, very close game we're having today. And as you could see, Demonius the God did not have to use his ultimate, so that's a very crucial cooldown that XLNC will have for the next team fight. And if we are going by current trends, it's gonna be very, very soon. Even though if you're XLNC right now, I would want them to, take a step back and try to farm, try to scale up a little bit more, just to secure that little bit of damage that can tilt the team fight in their favor.
And that's the thing you need when you've got those scaling champions. You can, allow yourself to take that breather of a break, take that step back, and say, okay, these last couple of fights, some have gone our way, some have not gone our way. So let's take a breather, make sure that we've got our homework done with those lanes, get the minions pushing in the way we want before looking for our next grouped fight. But the moment when Recon 5 Blue is trying to keep up the pressure, they want to keep those skirmishes going on because they're using those collapses very effectively and allowing themselves to kind of bring more players to a party and maybe pick up some extra kills as they got 4 members collapse here into the mid lane. Might be able to find their own first turret here as they push in.
Yeah, they really need this turret so that they can open up the map and allow them to.
Oh, hold on. Galio gonna go in looking for the taunt. Not gonna be able to fight, but it doesn't matter because the Callisto is already gone. Talking about squishy members, the carries finish off. Nautilus quick to follow as well. Lissandra use that ultimate to make sure that Callisto falls, and now Jin gonna collapse as well. Urgot trying to dash his way to safety. Rek'sai gonna get the knock up onto the Hecarim, slow him down so they can get underneath the turret. Vladimir doesn't care about turrets. He's just gonna pool the flash force out by Rek'sai, however, still going to fall. Enjoy a victory, quick to follow as well. Vladimir just barely escaping the turret's last shot, and that will be the second tier turret falling. Akali making sure that it's not an ace on the side of Recon 5, but it is darn near close to it as excellently decimates Recon 5.
Alright, and now the question is, R5 was able to get them mid tower.
Wait, Akali blast goes into the middle of 3 members. Uses the Shroud to survive for a moment, but just get out, Akali. You get... Okay, wait a minute, I spoke too soon. Gets a nice heal off of finishing off Lissandra. Gonna finish off Hurricanes as well. Hyoji is going mad. Finally, the taunt comes through from the Galio, so Hecarim is able to pick up that kill, but now they can turn with Callista, finishing off 1, finishing off 2, double kill to Gamu for doing a fantastic job showing up after that. And now where XLNC was in a pretty good position after the fight to go and get the Drake, which is going to be a Wind Drake, they are sent back to the fountain with the gray screens, and that's going to be a Wind Drake for Recon 5.
And XLNC was trying to set up the dragon here, but as you can see, because of that hero play from the Akali is doing a lot of work here. R5 is able to have priority on the Drake, and they should be able to take it here.
They get the Wind Drake, now they can turn on the Vladimir, talking about clear everyone else and then focus the guy who heals for forever. They've got the CC, he's gonna go golden with the stopwatch. He's actually got the Zhonya's completed, but still falls. Rek'sai picking up yet another kill. And that is exactly what you don't want to see if you're side the XLNC. Walking in 1 man versus 4, that is not good. And so XLNC...
Yeah, and Akali was able...
Good.
No, I was just gonna say Akali was able to do that, but Vladimir right now, I don't think he has the necessary scaling to be able to replicate what Akali was able to do earlier. Carry on.
No, you're fine. I'm just kind of watching to see what the team decide to do next, because you're right, the Vladimir, he can't 1v5. He can't 1v4. It's going to be a little bit before he gets there. Maybe another 15 minutes he'll be able to do so, but at this point, he's only completed about 2 items, and he's AP focused. Very, very heavily focused. Hecarim going to go in on 3 members. The Galio going to be knocked out. Finally, he's going to start that ultimate. Is it too late? Lissandra goes gold, not finishing off the Rek'sai, and this is the fight that XLNC wants. Gamu stuck just by the jaw of joy of victory. The Urgot immediately running away as they lose 3 members on the side of Recon 5, and so XLNC turn to start up the Baron. However, keep in mind the Akali, who's been the terror for the team so far, is right around the corner. So is Joy of Victory. He's got a lot of overall AoE damage. Akali saying what she can do. She has to use the Shroud yet because she's taunted out. Goal scored for the moment. Joy of Victory falls, and all 5 can make sure to shut down that Akali. The gold going over to the Vladimir, and now they could finally focus Baron, take their time with it, and XLNC have found themselves a good, solid lead once again this game.
Yeah, until the next fight, then we see how that goes. And like I was saying, you want to scale, you want to take minions, and you want to wait until you have the necessary damage to take the fight. But I think the player's mentality right now is whoever engages wins the fight. And that has been true to an extent. Like we saw Akali going in all crazy and does come out with the hero play, keeping them in the game. And when XLNC tries to engage, their fights have been very, very clean. So maybe that is true. If whoever engages first should win the fight. But R5 here has is working on a timer. They have to win enough fights to end the game. And that's going to be very difficult now that XLNC does have that Baron buff.
Because they can send that Vladimir to try to split push on a top side with, or bottom side with that Baron buff and group his 4 others, or they could just try to group and siege. One of the things you look at for Recon 5 is they don't have a very good wave clear team. They don't have anyone that's really long range that can just poke those cannon minions down from a distance. Even Kalista, while she is going to have that Runan's Hurricane, so has a bit of damage when those Rens come through, she's a fairly short range champion. Has to get a little bit closer to those minions than she would like, and that is the engage opportunity for the side of XLNC, especially when Flash is up on this Galio. So be looking for Applause to try to set up more of those Flash taunts, especially if you can get multiple people lined up with those.
Yeah, and if you're XLNC here, do you really want to send the Vladimir into a side lane? Like we have been discussing, if you engage the fight, you win the fight. So I'm thinking if it'll be better to like keep everyone in the mid lane and look for that crucial fight that you can try to win, and thus try to end the game with that Baron buff.
Other members to keep your eyes on besides that Vladimir, as he is joining the team, looking for that 5-man. This Rek'sai got pretty good damage and could leap in and try to finish off Sivir on that backside of the fight. One of those members that can actually get there, maybe joined by the Akali, but that's going to be one of those hero plays, making something crazy happen. Looks like Urgot considering stepping forward. He's just on the edge. Jin gonna take a little bit of damage, gets stunned up. Hecarim got the fear onto multiple members. The Galio ultimate comes through, knocking everyone up. It's a bouncy house underneath the turret. Mycox goes down to the turret, but the rest of the team is gonna fall, and now it's going to be all onto the turret. They don't have any minions, and it's actually a double kill for the Nautilus. Both of those turrets going down. Applause and Jin just pausing for a moment. It looked like a freeze frame, but it's actually Hurricanes pushing in those minions. They get themselves an inhibitor in the mid lane. They might have enough to even finish off this game, as there is 14 seconds, maybe not, 14 seconds on members of Recon 5 before they come up.
They should get like a turret here.
One Nexus turret they're able to secure with no fight. They're going to jump onto the second one. They might be looking to finish it off. Rek'sai is going to be up, everyone else respawning, so now they have to run. The hook from the Nautilus just almost connects with the Galio. Gonna flash and get the cleanse as well to get out. Still using that Justice Punch to escape the moment Vladimir went down earlier. Looks like the Galio's time has been called. He will fall. And now the Sivir's still running from the Rek'sai. That's pretty good speed. Remember that Wind Drake that was picked up early by Recon 5. They're going to use it to try to catch out Hurricanes. There's not enough health on that Sivir. She's going to fall. It's a buffet line. 1, 2, 3. They're not going to chase in for the 4th onto the Hecarim, but they do get a lot back for that. Now they have to defend an open Nexus in the mid lane.
Yeah, and I think that might actually be worth the 2... Wait, no, not really. I don't think that was worth, because did they get the shutdown goal on all of them? They did. So in that case, that gives R5 a little bit more time. They did buy time in order to get back in the game. But right now, I think the Baron buff is gone on most of the members, if not all of them. So yeah, they do have that time. It's what they do with that time that really matters right now. And if you're XLNC, you might just want to just go for the end. Or you can wait out Baron, give that Sivir a little bit more CS that she has been lacking right now, currently in a gold deficit against her opposite member in Kalista. But right now, if you're R5, what do you really want to do?
You
Because
want
there are no
around the Baron.
Yeah,
That's the thing they're lacking at the moment. You know that Baron's going to be the next big objective coming up here in another minute or so, and they had no vision around it. And as the team that potentially can be that pick comp when you're looking at the Nautilus engage with the hook, as well as the toss back from the Urgot into the rest of the team, they can easily grab one and try to finish them up for the rest of the team is here. However, looking like XLNC's not going to give them the opportunity. They're just going to run right into the base, and the engage is good. Pick it up too. Urgot going to fall as well. Nautilus quick to join his team members. Double kill for the Lissandra. The Nexus is open. Akali doing the best that she can to try to just be a little bit of a distraction, but the Glacial Tomb is available still for them to pick up that kill, make it an ace, and XLNC will secure the victory in game 1.
Valiant effort.
Good stuff there. Congratulations to XLNC on a well-fought game. And overall, across the board, they definitely seem to kind of know what they wanted to do. Sure, some of those fights didn't go exactly in the favor that they were looking for, and some of the collapsing from Recon 5 Blue was really, really good. However, as the game progressed, they had picked themselves a team composition that was going to see victory the longer the game went on. And because none of those fights went so hard in Recon 5's favor, they could pick up a Baron, pick up a bunch of turrets, grab an inhibitor off of that. XLNC eventually just was scaling too much for Recon 5 to deal with and came out victorious.
And I think this game is really determined on who was able to dictate their fight, and this mentality of if we go in first, we're going to win. And I think that's been largely true, because as you can see, even though the is in a deficit right now in gold, as you can see, but the Vladimir and the Lissandra have been able to pick up most of the slack. And like, we have to give a lot of credit to both junglers, because I think they've both been very proactive over the map, even though Hecarim was a little bit more successful in, putting his laners ahead.
Absolutely. Now, we are going to run through players on both sides, giving out honorable mentions and MVPs. I believe you've seen that happen before, Spood, so if you are interested, you can do that for both teams, or I can do one and you can do the other. What do you think?
Let's keep this fair. You can do one.
All right, so I will do it for the losing side, and you can do it for the winning side. So for the losing side of Recon 5 Blue, if you're new here, which Sammy is new, welcome. Thank you so much for that follow, or sorry, excuse me, Samui. Welcome. Thank you for joining as a minion. What we do is we give an honorable mention and an MVP to players on both teams. For the side of Recon 5 Blue, I want to give the honorable mention over to, despite dying a number of times, I want to give it to Gamoth. Mostly for the positioning in a lot of fights, as we talked about during the game. Some of the range of Kalista is a little bit on the shorter side, and to be effective, you need to be able to be close enough to get multi-man Rens and try to follow through on that. Look at the 11 assists. May not have all the kills in the game, but you can tell was heavily participant in what was going on the map. And so for that, I'm going to give the honorable mention over to Gamoth. For the MVP, I want to give it to the Rek'sai, but here's the thing. I know that we talked about Rek'sai's early engagement in the top side of the map and trying to constantly put pressure and get those lanes ahead. But I want to give a shout out to the Akali as well for making that desperation play around the Drake and actually coming out successful with that. However, that was a very small picture of what most of the game was going on, where Akali would engage a little bit too hard, would kind of get a little bit too deep. And because you get a little bit too deep, wasn't quite as effective with that shroud to be able to escape in situations, quite often having to blow flash to get out of bad spots. When you're a Kali, you shouldn't need to blow flash. It should be just shroud and dashes should get you through when you're trying to make those crazier plays. And so because of that, we're just giving a shout out to the Akali, but the MVP to the Rek'sai for that early aggression, which is exactly what the team needed. McNuggets was playing to the team's win objective, and that's why we're giving the MVP to the Rek'sai. So
yeah, I think
go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna sorry. I was just gonna say XLNC here they worked as a cohesive unit, and I think it's very difficult to pinpoint exactly who was that little bit that was able to push them over the edge. I am gonna take away their bot lane, sorry to say, because Hurricanes and Applause weren't really taking matters in their own hands and coming up with their own advantages here. I think it was more on the top side of the map here, ironically. As we discussed earlier, I thought it was going to be the bot side, but no, it is the top side here. And so I think for honorable mention, I am going to give it to the Lissandra, even though he wasn't able to give that many flashy plays. He was able to be that solid rock that was there for most of the team fights. And, I think if the Lissandra wasn't that rock, it was feeding a little bit more, they wouldn't be able to edge out that win. That being said, I am going to give the MVP here. I still haven't actually decided on this. It's just that close. I'm going to give it to the Vladimir here, because he was able to keep that Urgot suppressed. And if you did see, he did have like a cross map presence even in the early stage of the game, since he was able to contribute to a bot lane play. I'm not exactly sure if he TP down there, but he was down there for that play, which was able to keep their bot lane afloat. Now, the Hecarim was a very big part of the early game, but I don't think he contributed enough to like later game team fights as opposed to the Vladimir and the Lissandra in order for me to award him the MVP. So yeah, even though I'm rambling and I have been for most of this game, sorry about that.
No, that's
I'm
quite
gonna
alright.
I'm gonna give the honorable mention to the Lissandra and the MVP to Vladimir.
All right, honorable mention to Lissandra and MVP to Vladimir. Making sure that I write those down, because if you look below the stream, we actually record all honorable mentions and MVPs get updated in a giant list, and at the end of the year, we give out prizes to the people that have made it to the tops of those lists. So the more you play, the more you get a chance to get into those honorable mentions and MVPs and pick up some cool RP and prizes at the end of the year. For now, we are going to take a quick break and be right back with game number 2, which pretty much everyone is Diamond Plus in those games, so it should be just as exciting as this one. But either way, we will see you back as Silver Scrapes plays and sees us out into the break.